Welcome back to the deep dive. Our source stack today is just absolutely relentless. We're pulling together the personal testimony of an atheist professor's near-death experience, highly charged theological debate, and even, claims from former intelligence officials.
And they're all wrestling with the same enormous question. What is the nature of intelligent life, both here and, well, out there in the cosmos?
Exactly.
The central narrative we're looking at comes from Howard Storm. He was a 38-year-old college professor, a committed atheist, until a near-death experience in NDE just completely shattered his reality.
And so our mission is to unpack his terrifying descent and then his luminous ascent.
Right, but we're going to focus on the cosmic scope he was shown, the sheer scale of what's out there.
And then we'll contrast that vision, which is so benevolent, against some really polarizing theories claiming that non-human visitors are, well, something else entirely, something malevolent.
It's a huge contrast.
So let's start with the man himself. Before this NDE, Storm was an art professor, and he was driven by this desperate desire for fame. He really believed success was his only protection against, oblivion.
And internally, he was struggling. A lot of anxiety. The sources are pretty blunt, saying he found most people to be a tiresome nuisance.
That's a direct quote. He was confident in his atheism, but he was also critically ill in a hospital in Paris.
And that internal state, that profound lack of real compassion, is just a crucial setup for everything that happened next.
So what did happen next?
He loses consciousness. And in our time, it was for less than 30 minutes. But he's immediately aware of looking down at his own body on the hospital bed.
And he's not alone for long.
No. He hears people outside the room calling him by name. And they're speaking English, which is strange, right? He's in France. They're insistent, saying, "Come with us, hurry up, let's go."
And this journey that follows is it's just chilling. He follows these pale figures, but the environment isn't angelic at all.
Not at all. He said it was hazy, foggy, almost like a television with terrible reception.
You can't make out any details.
Right. And the figures, they always kept their distance.
Yeah.
Always about 10 feet away. He'd try to get closer, ask questions, and they'd just ignore him and tell him to move faster.
So there's this growing sense of dread.
A profound sense of psychological distress. Yeah. That core reception, that inability to connect. It's like an environment of total spiritual confusion.
And he eventually realizes he's not in the hospital anymore. He's in a place he later called the sewer of the universe.
That's the phrase he used. And his guides, his tormentors, they reveal their true nature. They start mocking him, calling him a coward, a nothing. And when he tries to pray, they just laugh at him.
And this is the moment of, self-accountability. His big realization wasn't that he was being tortured by some random demon.
No, that's the key. He concluded that he was, and I quote, "not unlike these miserable creatures who fed on pain." Exactly. The outer darkness, for him, it was just a reflection of his own inner emptiness. His own lack of compassion had, in a way, made him a citizen of that place.
Thankfully, that horror wasn't the end of it. This is where we see that immediate shift.
A complete 180.
In that absolute darkness and despair, a tiny pinpoint of light appears. And it starts growing rapidly, becoming brighter and more beautiful than anything he had ever seen.
And he knew instantly that this light was a living being. It was about 8 feet tall, surrounded by this radiant oval. He recognized him immediately as his rescuer.
And the healing was just immediate.
Right, total and physical. He felt tangible hands embrace him, lifting him up. His torn, sort of spiritual body was miraculously healed, and all that agony was replaced by this rush of overwhelming, unconditional love.
A love he'd never known existed. He said he had a million questions for this being, which were all patiently answered. But once he felt satisfied, he basically said, "Okay, I'm ready for heaven. I'm ready to stay here."
And the answer was a very clear no. You're not going to heaven. You're going back to the world. He was told to live his life differently.
Which brings us to the core mandate, the big lesson.
Right. The ultimate purpose of life, as it was revealed to him, is to know and do God's will. And how do you do that? By loving one another as God loves us. He was told this is the most difficult and most important lesson.
But we have to pause here because it came with this radical theological warning. It wasn't just be nice. What did the sources say about the unforgivable sin?
This is so important. The unforgivable sin, he was told, is perverting God's will by constructing religious traditions that demean or hurt other people.
So using a spiritual framework to cause pain.
Yes. That act of exclusion, of judgment in the name of God, grieves God beyond anything else. It's a fundamental inversion of so much classic theology.
Because it usually focuses on personal blasphemy or specific acts, but this suggests the worst possible sin is institutional. It's building systems of exclusion.
It completely flips the moral priority. It suggests the universe operates on a principle of absolute inclusion. And anything we build, a church, a philosophy that contradicts that, is fundamentally working against the divine plan. The whole point is reconciliation, not division.
Okay, that context is vital. Because if the mandate is universal, unconditional love, it just makes you wonder, how vast is the universe that's supposed to be loved? What did Storm learn about the sheer scale of intelligent life out there?
And that's where the cosmic perspective just explodes. He was shown insights into what we call angels.
And we're not just talking about a few beings.
No, not at all. The key takeaway is their number. They are uncountable. He was told their number exceeds all the stars in the universe. We're talking about an operational structure on a staggering scale.
And their jobs aren't small. It's not just one guardian angel for one person, right?
Right, we tend to think that way. But he was shown this whole hierarchy of responsibility. Some are for a single child, yes,
Yeah.
but others are responsible for an entire city, a nation, a whole world, even an entire universe.
An entire universe.
Yeah. And they are completely aware that they are servants, participating in this huge divine plan of creation and restoration.
What stands out to me is their emotional connection to us. It connects back to that mandate of love. The sources say these beings, they suffer emotionally when humans act against God's will.
They're integrated into the outcome. It's not a cold, detached system. It's profoundly empathetic. And the goal for us, for human spiritual growth, is to become like the Christ.
Which is described not just as a historical figure.
No, it's described as the divine activity of God, the creative action that is everywhere, throughout all time and space, constantly creating, restoring, and sustaining. We're meant to become conduits for that same creative, loving energy.
When you describe us being responsible for all of time and space, that cosmic scale immediately begs the ultimate question about, well, aliens. About other civilizations.
And he asked.
He asked it directly. He asked the luminous being if he had been to another world besides my world.
Yes. He confronted the idea of extraterrestrial life head-on. And when you place that question in the context of a universe run by uncountable empathetic beings, it really forces you to reevaluate what we think of as alien life.
Okay, so that expansive vision of light and purpose, it stands in really sharp contrast to another theory we find in other sources.
A deeply unsettling one, yeah. These theories basically propose that the beings we label as aliens or UFO occupants are not from other planets.
They're spiritual manifestations of evil, demons, or fallen angels.
Exactly. Using advanced technology or psychological control to deceive us.
And this theory leans heavily on accounts of deception. We have sources quoting Jim Semivan, a retired CIA agent, who basically said these forces can control our environment and put thoughts into our heads.
They can lie and they can deceive.
Implying we aren't even in control of our own thoughts when they're around.
And the descriptions from encounters often fit that sinister frame. You think of authors like Whitley Strieber. He wondered if the things he encountered were demons. He described them as monstrously ugly, so filthy and dark and sinister. And there's the core clash. Storm's experience is all about unconditional love and healing. These other accounts are about systematic deception, fear, and control.
So if we take both sets of sources seriously, what does that imply? Are we looking at two completely separate realities here?
That's the question, isn't it? Storm's NDE suggests this unified cosmic structure, all these angels, this divine activity, all working toward love. The counter theory suggests a localized, sophisticated counterforce.
Entities that operate in that same gray, foggy, confusing environment Storm was in at the beginning?
Exactly. They thrive on the misery and selfishness that Storm admitted he once possessed.
It just paints two radically different pictures of intelligent life. One is limitless, empathetic, creative intelligence dedicated to love.
And the other is a sophisticated, manipulative intelligence dedicated to fear and control. And the outcome for humanity seems to depend entirely on which principle we align ourselves with.
And that choice brings us right back to that mandate of love. Storm was specifically warned that America, and you can extend that to any powerful nation, if it becomes more greedy, more self-centered, more uncaring,
its reign will end. He said that without a radical turning toward genuine compassion for others, it's over.
So we've deep dived into the spiritual mechanics of the universe, the ultimate purpose for humanity, and the breathtaking scale of non-human intelligence, both the benevolent and the malevolent.
Two competing frameworks.
Beings of light that teach radical universal love or deceptive forces that seek control and thrive on fear. And so the question for you to take with you is this. If our future is truly shaped by that fundamental lesson Storm learned, that the great sin is a failure to genuinely love, which kind of intelligence are we right now most in harmony with?